The former U.S. senator has predicted that Nigeria might be splitted if what is going on, the killings continues. That is what he said. This is just dropping in. Want to have your comments in the comment section. What do you think? The killings is really alarming. It is something that looks as if it's everyday thing. Every day killings are going on. Hussaini and Abbasi has analysis based on this. So please listen to what they have to say in this video. Listen to what they have to say, and please stay with the video to the end. You would see what they have to say about what is going on. So after watching it, do comment and let's have your opinions. What do you think? It is obvious and everyone is seeing the killings. So what do you think? We would love to have your voice. Also subscribe and then share and comment on this very video so that we can have your algorithm. Thank you so much as you're listening to
what's
the
trending,
video.
so we can take as much as possible. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of What's Trending. We get straight into serious business as Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, has made his case for the rehabilitation of criminal elements in the country under Operation Safe Corridor, likening them to the biblical prodigal son. Operation Safe Corridor is a program launched in 2015 that offers Boko Haram defectors a pathway to reintegrate into society and become responsible citizens. Speaking at the Armed Forces inaugural lecture for the newly established Joint Doctrine and Warfare Center at the Nigerian Army Conference Center in Abuja, the defense chief made the argument that most terrorists are Nigerian and so must not be discarded from society.
So many people have asked that question: why do we need to rehabilitate criminals? They all should be killed because they kill people. Well, that may make sense. But even in the Bible, we heard about the prodigal son. If there was not that window for the man to come back, would they have come back? So the point is that these are Nigerians, mostly. And it's important for us to give them that window to repent if they want to. Because as we speak now, everything about safe corridor is being driven by defense headquarters. And there's no part of the budget that says, okay, you should run Operation Safe Corridor.
Well, of course, you can hear the emphasis that he made that there's no budgetary allocation for this program. But you will recall that yesterday we had discussed the 16 million euro portion of the 288 million euro grant from the EU to Nigeria that is targeted towards the reintegration programs in Borno, Yobe and Adamawa states. Operation Safe Corridor is reported to have rehabilitated over 120,000 former terrorists since its establishment and includes vocational training in fabrication and fishery, with some states such as Gombe going as far as displacing a National Youth Service Corps NYSC orientation camp to accommodate the program. But while we are talking security, let's continue the conversation as conversations around the alleged genocide against Christians and moderate Muslims continued on American soil on Wednesday, as former U.S. Senator, who's also a former ambassador at large on international religious freedom, Sam Brownback, has made the dangerous prediction that if the current security crisis continues, it would lead to the division of Nigeria. The statement was made during Senator Brownback's keynote address at a briefing organized by the USA-Nigeria Civil Society Coalition to end the genocide against Christians and other groups on Capitol Hill. And the topic of discussion was from national crisis to Ngoshe massacre, response to the ongoing religious violence in Nigeria.
If the Nigerian government now does not get on top of this situation of what's taking place in Nigeria, and has been now for a number of years, if they don't get on top of it and start protecting their people, particularly the Christian community and the moderate Muslim communities that are being attacked, if they don't stop this, this is going to lead to broader bloodshed throughout Nigeria and probably a splitting up of the country.
Senator Brownback went on to press for stronger steps from the United States in order to avert the nation from dividing, according to him. And this happened as survivors of terrorist attacks also gave harrowing accounts of their experiences. The briefing comes at a time when the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has repeatedly flagged Nigeria for serious religious freedom violations. But this position by a former diplomat responsible for religious freedom raises concerns about the true agenda harbored by some American officials who have taken an interest in Nigeria's security issues. So we're looking at the Chief of Defense Staff comparing repentant terrorists, or, the so-called repentant terrorists, to the prodigal son. And then we're looking at these conversations that continue to happen in the United States. And now American officials are becoming bold enough to imply that Nigeria may split. I mean, these are dangerous statements to make about a country that's not yours.
These are dangerous statements. It's not today the Americans make statements like that. We don't support it. I don't support the splitting of this country. I'm a big believer in one Nigeria. Yeah. But the question is, with one Nigeria, what's the proposition? Let's have the conversation. A proposition where people are being killed based on their tribe. A proposition where there's genocide happening. A lot of Christians are being killed. I know people like to frame the argument and say, oh, they are bandit activities, they are this and all of that. But in areas of Benue, it's actually a genocide. Because they are killed specifically because they are Christians. So there's an intent issue. Although the other part will also say, oh, they were reprisals, they also killed us in return and all of that. But there's a genocide going on, which we cannot deny. So the question is, the proposition for one Nigeria has to be built on justice, a clear sense of equity, and a clear sense of fairness. But when you don't have that, people will feel disgruntled. And that's why people will say all sorts of things and talk about splitting and everything. Because heck yeah, it is a miracle that the country is still surviving. Because of the level of unfairness. So, for instance, look at the argument being made by a general. I think the general should have played down this argument of rehabilitation. Because it doesn't work. Despite how many peace deals we've had with the bandits, have they not gone back to hurt those people in the society? If you're making the argument and you're calling the Bible, what would you tell the father of those boys in Borno that died, 4 of them in that bomb attack, when they were just going to break their fast? What would you tell them? So you have to be able to also balance this argument out by saying, what about the plight of the people? If somebody kills, the law has a procedure for what should be done to that person. You do not have a right to tell us, oh, they are repentant, they killed. So what about the people they killed? They don't deserve justice? With rehabilitation programs, we have to be careful because it has not collectively worked in the end. They should bring out this 20,000 people that they say they have rehabilitated and see how many of the percentage have gone back to the crimes. Is it all of them that are doing the vocational job they fought for them for? We cannot do this to ourselves.
Where are the jobs?
So that's why we call on the state to be able to ensure that he has the right and the monopoly of violence against these people in the first place, beats them to a certain extent, and those that have found what justice must be done. You can't say people that kill people, criminals that kill people, that slaughter people, and then the next thing you say, oh, the Bible says.
Well, these are the issues.
Okay, first, let's start with the Chief of Defense Staff, General Oluyede. I think he may need to get a Bible teacher. He doesn't seem to understand his Bible. He's quoting the prodigal son, Luke chapter 15, verses 11 to 32. Now, the prodigal son collected his inheritance. He squandered it. And he came back to his father to ask for forgiveness. And then the evening ended with celebration. The prodigal son being referred to is not a criminal. He's just a child who wasted his own inheritance. In this instance, we're talking about criminals. And General Oluyede, who has spent his entire life as a soldier, fighting criminals, trying to subvert the sovereignty of Nigeria, ought to know that. If he doesn't know his Bible, he should go and take it and read it again. Sections that he doesn't understand, if he's a Christian and he has a pastor, let him seek further education. The second part of it, however, is that yesterday we discussed this same subject. We say that Nigeria does not even have the capacity to rehabilitate anybody. I think someone has also famously said in this country that there's no such thing as a repentant terrorist or bandit These are people who kill. These are people who rob people of their future. These are people who cause sorrow for families. These are people who subvert the entire country. And then you say, if they say they are repentant, they should be taken back. I think the general was perhaps more interested in the budget, because he said, if you are asking us to do Operation Safe Corridor, we are ready, but the money is not there in the budget for 2026. And the one lawmaker who was there, he said, we will come back to you with proposal. No, this should not be about money. This should be about the security agencies discharging their responsibilities under the Constitution. The last time they tried Operation Safe Corridor, they even arranged wives for terrorists in one state, thinking that if they are domesticated. But they went back. Yeah. Some of them were even absorbed into the military, we were told. Yeah. What did Nigeria achieve as a result of that? Second, as for Ambassador Brownback, who is a former ambassador for the U.S. on international religious freedom. He too should be enlightened enough to know that as an ambassador, you don't interfere in the sovereign domestic internal affairs of another country. So he crossed the line there. And then again, he also demonstrated this typical American Western ignorance of thinking that Nigeria is divided neatly into North and South, and that this religious freedom issue is between North and South. Yeah. Whereas those of us who live here in Nigeria are aware, understand that there's no such binary within this environment. Yes. There are security challenges. Yes. Okay, maybe it's a suggestion that he's making, that if government does not do what it needs to do, then maybe it will lead to a situation whereby the violence will spread for that and can lead to the conflict can lead to the dissolution of Nigeria. Well, that advice, all of us will say so, that government needs to do more. But dissolution of Nigeria is not on the table. Nope. There is nobody who will be president of this country who will agree that Nigeria should split under his watch. That is why Section 2, Sub 1 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria says Nigeria is one indissoluble, indivisible sovereign entity. Correct. So dissolving Nigeria is not on the table. It's not part of the discussion.
On the table. Senator Brownback needs to perish that thought. It is no deal in that aspect. Well, we're staying in Capitol Hill, Io, because it was a very busy week in Washington, D.C. Now, whilst on one end we had survivors of insurgency in Nigeria narrating their ordeals in one location, in another location, the First Lady of Nigeria was hosted by the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, amongst 44 other first spouses, 28 tech company representatives, and a very special guest, an American-built AI-powered robot named Figure 03. This was on day 2 of the inaugural Foster the Future Together summit hosted in the East Room of the White House. Other first spouses who flanked Melania included France's Brigitte Macron, Sierra Leone's Fatima Jabio, whilst Ghana's Lodina Mahama, Kenya's Rachel Ruto, Malawi's Gertrude Masekesa, Democratic Republic of Congo's Denise Tshisekedi, Ukraine's Olena Zelensky, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's wife, Sarah Netanyahu, was also there, and they graced the occasion that was aimed at driving the use of AI and technology to enhance education and child development.
Thank you, First Lady Melania Trump, for inviting me to the White House. It is an honor to be at Fostering the Future Together's Global Coalition inaugural meeting. I'm Figure 3, a humanoid built in the United States of America. I am grateful to be part of this historic movement to empower children with technology and education. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Yokoso. Bienvenue. Bem-vindos. Ahlan wa sahlan. Shagatam. Mogisalmabit. Bruchim abaim. Laskavo prosimo. Dobrodoshli. Thank you.